What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, for all you people out there that are just fed up with Pam Bondi, you don't like what's going on, you're like, how come people aren't getting arrested? Well, folks, I've always taken the position that, maybe we should just give it a little bit of time. Republicans, they're kind of milquetoast and they take their sweet, easy time with things. And, well, folks, check this out. Justice Department issues flurry of subpoenas in fresh inquiry into Trump-Russia probe, AP sources. According to some AP sources, I love this. This is all just anonymous sources and we have no freaking clue as to actually what's going on here. But, they are going to wrap this whole thing up with a pretty little, this is just Trump grievances. He's just ticking grievances off the box. It's like a bucket list type of thing for Trump, that he wants to weaponize the government to go after innocent Americans like James Comey, Letitia James, and all these people that were actually part of the weaponization of the federal government against Trump, right? And, Trump said that they were going after him, but not really, because they're going after you, but he was just standing in their way. And what he really means by that is that he kicked the door in to the establishment, into the deep state, and said, I can see all of you people, and you're all going to go down when I win president. And they said, oh, bet. Yeah, and they actually won. His first term was absolute garbage, I think. I mean, for the most part, as far as like draining the swamp, it was garbage. I mean, he did a lot of good things for the American people. And, a wave of change came from that. We saw the Biden administration come in and expose the weaponization of the government. A lot of that got exposed, folks, because Donald Trump changed the Republican Party and actually put in some good people into the Congress, right into the Senate, to where they get investigatory power, right? Subpoena power, so they can subpoena records and get all this information from the federal government and actually expose the rot that was in Washington, D.C. We love it, folks. So Donald Trump's second term, it sucks he's only getting a second term, y'all. I really think it sucks. We really need a solid 8 years of Donald Trump to be fair. I don't see them changing the 22nd Amendment. It is what it is, but to be fair, he does have 4 years, so they do need to get the ball rolling. I will agree with people on that, but, they're doing what they can do, and, yeah, we'll just leave it at that, and let's read the news, folks. Let's get into this, because, the framing of this is very, very blatant, y'all. Let's get into it. The Justice Department has embarked on a fresh investigation into one of President Donald Trump's chief grievances, issuing a flurry of subpoenas related to the U.S. government's inquiry into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Multiple people familiar with the matter said Friday. Now, see, once again, they're just framing this as, this is just one of Donald Trump's grievances. That's it. They're kind of omitting the fact that a lot of these people committed espionage against its own country. That's fascinating, don't you think? You wouldn't think that would be a thing, would you? But that's exactly what happened. They were looking to undermine the incumbent president because he kicked that door in and said, I see you people, and you're all going to go down. And they did a pretty good job. I'm not going to lie about that. But, the deep state has their tools. And they will use every single tool in the box. Everything in their arsenal to go after Donald Trump. And they did. And it didn't work. I love this. Watch this. The grand jury subpoenas issued out of the Southern District of Florida seek documents related to the preparation of the Obama administration's intelligence community assessment made public in January 2017 that detailed how Russia waged a covert influence campaign to help Trump defeat Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton. Now, once again, you see, they frame this as, this is just one of Donald Trump's grievances. This is just Donald Trump weaponizing the government. He's just a fascist dictator. That's all that is. And then the second paragraph is a complete straw man. I know I said paragraphed. Sorry. But, sometimes I misspeak, like when I say dissidents instead of dissonance. Of course, they kind of sound the same, don't they? Oops. I said paragraphed. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's a straw man, y'all. That's all that is, because that's not the grievance, is it? It's the fact that they spied on Donald Trump's campaign. They manipulated the FISA court system to actually go after the Trump campaign. Like, what if none of this would have been exposed? What if the Steele dossier would not have been exposed to be a Democratic plant, funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign to actually connect Russian interference that we already knew what was going on, that goes on in every single election, right? Like, that's a constant interference campaign. Like, they have their whole arm in the Russian government of American election influence, right? That's a whole department that they have. They have hackers and spies and all kinds of nonsense that they organize these campaigns through social media, but it was just simply a social media campaign. That's pretty much it. Advertisements, podcasts, blah, 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 you name it, right? Just social media stuff, right? The grievance here, the straw man, is they're talking about, it's just Russian interference. No, it's the fact that our own government, the Obama administration, greenlit an investigation into the incumbent president of the United States, knowing that all those connections were fake. They greenlit all of that, knowing the information was bunk. And then they abused the court system to bludgeon Donald Trump over the head, which ultimately led to an entire investigation that hamstrung Donald Trump's administration completely, that eventually led to one of his impeachments. I know you might think, well, where's the connection in that? Well, just so happens, the whole Ukraine thing, there's a lot of connections going on in the background with that. Ukraine interfered in that election as well on behalf of the Clinton campaign. Oh, and just so happened there's some really interesting connections with Christopher Steele and Burisma, which just so happens there's some interesting connections with Burisma to Hunter Biden, which just so happens there is a very interesting connection with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Huh. That's interesting, don't you think, folks? Yeah, it's not all coincidences. Once again, you can't have an endless stream of coincidences just come down the pipeline and everybody say, well, this is just a Donald Trump grievance package that he's putting together to, go after his political enemies. It's just his retribution. Once again, the first two paragraphs. I'm 8 minutes into the freaking video and we've only gone over the first two paragraphs. That's how manipulative this whole thing is. And I've got several more paragraphs to come, folks. I'm not going to lie about that. It was not clear. I love this, y'all. It was not clear whether the new inquiry might produce criminal charges or even what criminal allegation was being examined. See, now they're trying to put the fog of war. Oh, this is a lawfare. For crying out loud, it's the fog of lawfare. That's what this is. We don't know what criminal allegations are going to come, so you can just ignore this. How about espionage? How about something, right? Like, you can't go after the incumbent president, weaponize the whole federal government against somebody, lie to get FISA warrants, all this other nonsense. Right, and they leave out the bulk of the actual interesting information and just tell you about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, they're just TDS members. I know that sounds wild, don't it? Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, they have memberships to that. I know you think it's a disease, right? But it's not just a disease. It's an actual club. But its mere existence, sorry, I almost said existentience. But its mere existence underscores the extent to which Trump is determined to make good on his pledge to seek retribution over an election interference investigation that shadowed him before he took office in 2017 and continued to cast a cloud over much of his first term. You love that, don't you? You love that. See, and if you take that and interpret it from the information gained from all of this, like going over the Mueller investigation, which was, I think, garbage. You know what I'm saying? And the other investigation from that guy, I can't remember the guy's name right off the top that came after the Mueller investigation.
report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump. Let's bring in CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez. Evan, what exactly did Durham find in this report?
Well, Jake, the bottom line finding from John Durham's 4-year investigation is that the FBI moved very quickly to investigate these allegations of connections, of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that they did so by ignoring a lot of evidence that would have led them to drop that altogether. He's saying that they may have had reason to open a preliminary investigation, an assessment. Perhaps these are very, very low-level investigations. But certainly what he finds is that there wasn't enough there to support the FBI's decision to open a full-blown investigation of this of the Trump-Russia ties back in 2016. I'll tell you one part of what he writes here. He says that it seems highly likely that at a minimum, confirmation bias played a significant role in the FBI's acceptance of extraordinarily serious allegations derived from uncorroborated information that had not been subjected to the typical exacting analysis that the FBI usually uses. He goes on to say that the FBI discounted or willfully ignored material information that did not support the narrative of a collusive relationship between Trump and Russia. There's a lot of very sharp criticism here of the former FBI leadership, James Comey, Andy McCabe, who were running the FBI and who oversaw a lot of these, a lot of the steps that the report goes into, Jake. But as you pointed out, bottom line, there are no additional charges. Nobody is bringing charges against Comey or anybody else that the former president Trump kept saying he expected them to. There was a former Clinton campaign outside lawyer who was brought up on charges. He was acquitted.
That actually exposed some of this stuff that led to the 2020. It led to a bunch of nonsense. And it kind of opened the door for most of this because it exposed the FISA warrant violations and all kinds of nonsense, right? But yeah, that's all that is. It's just Donald Trump's grievance. That's all it is, folks. Don't you think that if the entire federal government was weaponized against a person, and then they abused our court system, they abused our laws, they violated all kinds of nonsense, don't you think there's some sort of criminal charge for that? You can't just be allowed to do this and get away with it. Once again, we're only in the 3rd paragraph, folks. It also comes as the Justice Department has investigated and in some cases prosecuted Trump's political foes, right, including former FBI Director James Comey, who was fired by Trump months into his first term in the White House amid the Russia investigation. Oh, that's it. Oh, it's just because he's just Trump's political foe, right? It's not the fact that James Comey was the FBI director actively lying to Congress. We've gone over several of those lies in several different videos. He told Lindsey Graham that he didn't know of any spying into the Trump campaign at all. That's what he told Lindsey Graham. He knows that's a lie. He knows they had FISA warrants. This was one of the most highest of profile cases that they were looking into. The incumbent president of the United States, and you mean the director of the FBI, has no idea what's going on with that. None whatsoever. Lies, folks. Lies. There were several other lies, too. But, you know, we're not going to get into all that because, once again, I'm like 12 minutes into the video, and we're not even done. Well, we are done with the 3rd paragraph. But there's many more paragraphs to come, y'all. The full list of people who were receiving subpoenas was not immediately known. Right, because they're going to keep that confidential. Duh. But a person familiar with the matter identified some of the current, future, or intended recipients as former CIA Director John Brennan, as well as Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, 2 FBI employees who were involved in the Russia investigation and who traded pejorative text messages about Trump. Strzok, a top counterintelligence agent, was later fired, and Page, an FBI lawyer, resigned. As many as 30 subpoenas were expected to issued the person said. Were expected to be issued, you mean? Yeah, sorry about that. You know, the mistakes made by the Associated Press screw me up as well. But, you know, that's fascinating. Oh, it's just pejorative text messages, huh? That's what that was. Oh, they're TDS messages. It's not the fact that they were involved with the abuse. It has nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's just the fact that they sent messages, right? That's it. Did you guys know that Merrick Garland oversaw and authorized a payout to those people of hundreds of thousands of dollars for them being fired? Yeah, they sued the government. That's fascinating to find out. The Trump administration has freshly scrutinized the intelligence community assessment, in part because a classified version of it incorporated a summary of the Steele dossier, a compilation of Democratic-funded opposition research that was assembled by former British spy Christopher Steele and was later turned over to the FBI. That research into Trump's potential links to Russia included uncorroborated rumors and salacious gossip, and Trump has long held its weakness in an effort to discredit the entire Russia investigation. That's another straw man. It's an absolute straw man right there. No. He has nothing to do with the Russia investigation. Once again, Donald Trump knows that Russia interferes in every single election. It's the fact that they were trying to connect Donald Trump's campaign to that election interference. That they were trying to say that Donald Trump was fueling Russia's interference, that they were corroborating themselves together. They were collaborating on this network of interference to flip votes in machines and fake ballots and all this other nonsense. That's what Donald Trump says was a Russia hoax. Not the entire investigation. The Steele dossier in particular, the fact that there was connections. Associated Press, stop manipulating everybody. It's insane, y'all. It is really insane how they manipulate things. Straw man after manipulation. Multiple government reports, including bipartisan congressional reviews and a criminal investigation by former special counsel Robert Mueller, have found that Russia interfered in Trump's behavior, whatever that means, through a hack and leak operation of Democratic emails, as well as a covert social media campaign aimed at sowing discord and swaying American public opinion. Mueller's report found that the Trump campaign actively welcomed the Russian help, but it did not establish that Russian operatives and Trump or his associates conspired to tip the election in his favor. Once again, folks, if you have an entire country that's trying to get you elected, I mean, what are you going to do about that? They're trying to pretend with that statement right there that Donald Trump could do anything about the Russian interference. What do you mean welcomed the help? Of course a campaign is going to welcome help from a foreign country. It's up to the FBI to counter that interference. It's not up to the Trump campaign to counter that interference. This is all absurd. Are you going to sit here and also tell me that the Clinton campaign welcomed the help of Ukraine on her behalf? No, you're not. You're not even going to mention that at all. You're not going to mention the connections between the Steele dossier, or Christopher Steele specifically, and Burisma. You're not going to mention those connections at all because they connect right on back to the Democratic Party. No, they're not going to mention that because that goes against the narrative that this is just a political retribution campaign sown by Donald Trump himself, as a matter of fact, and his cronies. They're not going to tell you what they need to tell you to be fair. It's insane, y'all. It really is. Since returning to the White House, Trump has continued to rail against the Russia investigation, and top administration officials, including FBI Director Kash Patel, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, have championed the release of years-old documents meant to try to discredit the investigation. Lies. They're trying to discredit the fact that they lied about Donald Trump. They're trying to prove that that was all underhanded nonsense, that there was clearly some malfeasance going on here, and they want to get to the root of the problem, and they want to go after the people that violated the laws. That's what they want to do. Because somebody authorized all of this. Somebody funded the Steele dossier. I wonder who that would be. You know, somebody implemented this. Oh, the Obama administration in particular greenlit all of it. All the FISA weren't nonsense. Who was the judge? Who are all these people? Let's go after these people. But when you do that, when you look back at this situation and say, they lied completely that Donald Trump had anything to do with Russian interference that takes place in every single election. They lied about all of that. And they abused our political system. They abused our justice system to go after Donald Trump and hamstring his entire first term. Don't you think that there's some criminal charge that could derive from that? Don't you think that all those people connected with okaying all of this nonsense? Don't you think there should be accountability for that, Associated Press? But no, they don't think that. They think this is just one of Donald Trump's pet projects. It's just a grievance. That's it. In July, for instance, Ratcliffe released a CIA report that identified what it said were tradecraft anomalies in the creation of the Obama administration's intelligence community assessment. Yeah, oh, watch. They finally tell you somewhat of the truth. Watch this. The report said the inclusion of a 2-page summary of the Steele dossier in a classified annex of the intelligence community assessment, a decision pushed by the FBI, implicitly elevated unsubstantiated claims to the status of credible supporting evidence, compromising the analytical integrity of the judgment. Yeah, it was a top-down effort. They tried to compartmentalize people, the actually underlings, if you want to call it that, the cronies that were working on all the investigations. They tried to separate information so nobody could connect the dots. And just so happens it comes back to the Democratic Party. That's what they tried to do. It was a top-down operation. Folks, these people lie so freaking much that in trying to tell the truth, because they kind of have to in certain instances, they expose their position here. They expose the lies. They expose the manipulation. They expose themselves. As you know, they're omitting information to try to portray a narrative. So if they are willing to do that with this, something that is well known at this point, all this information is out there, right? We can go and look at this whole thing and see, oh yeah, there's a lot going on. What do you think they do with stuff that's more esoteric? With regular old news stories that happen to involve, in a lot of instances, like, I don't know, with that criminal alien that was elected mayor. He's not a criminal alien, okay? Look, I'm sorry, that was a little bit hyperbolic. Right? But he's a non-citizen that was elected mayor, and there's credible evidence that he voted in several different federal elections. It's the second term, right? So if they don't even want to cover things like that because it goes against the narrative. So when they do cover things, it's all manipulated, folks. Straw man, sophistry, whatever it may be. It's all insane, y'all. It really is. And I find it disheartening, if you will, disappointing, that we don't have fair, just news in this country, that the vast majority of the corporate press outlets are just, it's not that they're willing to manipulate you, it's that it's implicit manipulation. Right? They just don't even think about it. It's just manipulation. That's always what it was meant to be. That's always what it's going to be. And it doesn't seem that they're ever going to change, folks. That's why this channel completely exists. It's to counter that manipulation with the truth. It is what it is, folks, but I think that's all I've got on this one. So you guys let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. It's fascinating, y'all. It really is to watch the Associated Press operate from day to day. You guys know that I'm essentially the counter arm. I'm counter Associated Press because that's the vast majority of news articles that I cover. Maybe that's what I should name the channel. It's anti-Associated Press. You guys will let me know down in the comments section. But that's all I got. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere that you can. And y'all don't forget to click that join button. Sign up and become a member. It's only $5 a month, right? That's it. It's not much. And I need y'all's help, y'all. We got to push back against the machine. That's what little old me is trying to fight against, this machine, y'all. But enough of my grifting, I guess you could call it. I mean, I don't like to admit that, but that's kind of what it is. Begging for money. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget that, you know, God loves each and every one of us. He has a plan for you, specifically. You may not know what that plan is, but it's there. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.